What if the greatest war of your life isn't being fought on some distant battlefield, but inside your own mind, right now, in the quiet moments of your day? What if the most formidable enemy you will ever face isn't another person, another institution, or another circumstance, but a version of yourself that has been secretly sabotaging your every move? You know the feeling. It's that subtle sinking sensation when you're on the verge of a breakthrough, right before you make the call, send the email, or commit to the difficult path. It's the whisper that says, "Not yet," or "You're not ready," or worse, "Who are you to even try?" It's the invisible hand that pulls you back toward comfort, toward the familiar, toward the person you were yesterday, even as every fiber of your being screams for a different future. You feel it in the hesitation. You feel it in the procrastination. You feel it in the endless cycle of starting and stopping, of dreaming big and living small. You are a ghost haunting the halls of your own potential. You've set the goals, you've read the books, you've watched the videos, you've felt the fleeting surge of motivation, that electric moment where everything seems possible. And then, inevitably, the tide recedes, leaving you stranded on the same shore of mediocrity, wondering why your effort never seems to equal your results. You see others moving forward, building, creating, becoming, and a quiet, corrosive resentment begins to build. Not just for them, but for yourself. You feel like a spectator in your own life, watching a movie where the main character, you, keeps making the same mistakes, falling into the same traps, defeated by an enemy that no one else can see. But I see it, and you are not alone in this fight. This invisible war is the great, unspoken struggle of our generation. It's a conflict waged not with fists but with focus, not with weapons but with will. The enemy is a deeply ingrained set of patterns, a collection of old wounds, a chorus of limiting beliefs that have crystallized into a false identity. It's the self you think you are, the self that is afraid, the self that is lazy, the self that is unworthy. And today, we declare a last stand against it. This is not about surface-level tips or temporary fixes. This is about understanding the art of war for the soul. I am going to give you the strategy, the intelligence, and the weapons to not just fight this invisible enemy, but to conquer it completely. We will dismantle it piece by piece, until the person you are today becomes utterly unrecognizable to the person you will be. We will turn your mind from a battlefield into a fortress, and from a fortress into a kingdom, with you on the throne. This journey is about reclaiming your power, your focus, and your life from the clutches of an imposter self that has ruled for far too long. So let's start with the first most crucial piece of intelligence you need to win this war. The first victory is a mental one, a shift in perception that changes everything. The enemy you are fighting, that voice of doubt, that pull of procrastination, that feeling of being stuck, it feels like you. It speaks with your voice. It knows all your secrets and all your fears. But here is the truth that can set you free. It is not you. It is a program. It is a recording of the past playing on a loop. It is the ghost of old pains, the echo of other people's opinions, the shadow of past failures. You are not the storm. You are the sky. You are not the thoughts. You are the silent awareness that witnesses the thoughts. The moment you understand this, the moment you can create even the slightest separation between the observer, your true self, and the thought, you have created the space needed for victory. The enemy can only control you as long as you believe it is *you. From this moment forward, your first act of rebellion is to observe it. When the voice of doubt speaks, don't argue with it, don't fight it, simply notice it. Say to yourself, there is the program of doubt running again. When the feeling of laziness descends, notice it. There is the pattern of avoidance. By objectifying it, by seeing it as a separate entity, you strip it of its power. It's no longer an inseparable part of your identity. It is an intruder in your mind. This is your first win. This is where the reconquest begins. You are not the enemy. You are the warrior who has come to defeat it. Now that we have established this crucial separation, we must map the terrain of this internal battlefield. A warrior does not charge blindly into enemy territory. He studies the landscape, he identifies the enemy's strongholds, and he understands their strategies. Your inner world has a landscape, and the enemy has fortified it for years. Its primary fortress, its most heavily defended position, is the one you believe to be a sanctuary. It is the fortress of comfort. Think of your comfort zone. The word itself sounds appealing, doesn't it? Warm, safe, easy. This is the enemy's most brilliant deception. Your comfort zone is not a home, it is a cage. It may be a gilded cage decorated with trivial pleasures, mindless distractions, and the gentle, numbing hum of predictability, but it is a cage nonetheless. It is the place where your potential goes to die. Every time you retreat into it, you are feeding the enemy. You are reinforcing its walls. Let's break down the architecture of this prison. The foundation is built with the bricks of past habits, the routine of waking up and immediately reaching for your phone, the familiar path of least resistance at work, the default decision to watch another episode instead of going to the gym. Each of these actions seems small, insignificant, but together they form an impenetrable base. The bars of the cage are forged from fear, the fear of the unknown, the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, the fear of looking foolish. These fears are the sentinels that patrol the perimeter of your comfort zone, ensuring you never even attempt to escape. And what is the currency within this prison? Cheap dopamine. The enemy has mastered the art of paying you just enough to keep you compliant. A notification on your phone, a sugary snack, an easy laugh from a sitcom, a moment of outrage from the news. Each of these delivers a tiny, fleeting spike of pleasure, a chemical reward that says, "Stay here, it's safe here, it's easy here." This is not the deep, lasting fulfillment of achievement. It is the chemical equivalent of prison rations, just enough to keep the inmate from rioting. It dulls the ache of your unused potential. It quiets the call to adventure. It makes the cage feel comfortable. To begin the assault on this fortress, you must first see it for what it is. You must start to become allergic to comfort. You must learn to associate the feeling of easy and safe with the feeling of stagnation. You must cultivate a hunger for the frontier, for the space just beyond your current capabilities. This is where growth lives. This is where the person you want to become is waiting. The first tactical move is to engage in voluntary hardship. You must willingly step out of the cage, even for a moment. This can be as simple as taking a cold shower. In that moment, your entire being, every nerve ending, every conditioned response, will scream for you to turn the handle to warm. It will tell you it's unnecessary, it's painful, it's stupid. That voice is the warden of the prison of comfort. By deliberately choosing the cold, by standing in the discomfort for 60 seconds, you are telling the warden, "You are not in charge, I am." You are training your will. You are proving to yourself that you can override the program. Expand this principle. Do the workout when you don't feel like it. Have the difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Read a challenging book instead of scrolling. Each act of intentional discomfort is a crack in the fortress wall. At first it feels jarring, but soon you begin to develop a taste for it. You start to realize that all the things you truly want in life, strength, confidence, skill, peace, they all lie on the other side of a wall of discomfort. The fortress the enemy built to imprison you becomes your training ground. You are no longer defending its walls. You are actively looking for ways to breach them, every single day. The goal is to make the familiar feel foreign and the challenging feel like home. This is how you dismantle the enemy's primary stronghold and begin to reclaim your own territory. With the fortress of comfort identified, we must now turn our attention to the enemy's command structure. This is not a mindless, chaotic force. It is an organized army led by brilliant, insidious generals who have studied you your entire life. They know your weaknesses, your triggers, and your breaking points. To defeat them, you must know them first. Let us expose the three primary generals of the army of the self. The first is General Doubt. His weapon is not the sword but the whisper. He is the master of psychological warfare. He never attacks you head-on in a moment of strength. Instead, he waits for the quiet moments, the moments of vulnerability, right before you are about to take a risk. His voice is calm, reasonable, and sounds exactly like your own. He will present you with a meticulously crafted portfolio of all your past failures. He will remind you of every time you tried and fell short. He will ask, "What makes you think this time will be any different? Remember what happened last time. You were embarrassed. You lost money. You wasted time. Are you sure you want to go through that again?" General Doubt is a historian of your pain. He uses your own memory as a weapon against you. He projects the failures of the past onto the canvas of the future, convincing you that the pattern is unbreakable. His ultimate goal is to neutralize your ambition before it ever translates into action. He wants to keep you in the realm of thinking, planning, and dreaming, because he knows that in the realm of action, he loses his power. To counter General Doubt, you cannot argue with him on his own terms. To argue with him is to legitimize his premise. If he says, "You might fail," and you respond, "No, I won't," you are already caught in his trap. The very fact that you are debating the possibility of failure means he has already won the engagement. The correct strategy is to disregard his intelligence report as irrelevant. You must adopt the mindset of the warrior who says, "The past is a ghost. It has no authority here." Your counterattack is twofold. First, you must starve him of evidence. You do this by collecting new data. You must take small, manageable actions that lead to small wins. A single productive hour, one workout completed, one page written. These small victories are new entries in your portfolio. They are fresh evidence that you can present to yourself. When General Doubt whispers about your past failures, you do not argue. You simply point to the logbook of today. "I hear you. But today, I did the work." Second, you must reframe his very definition of failure. General Doubt thrives on the idea that failure is a final verdict on your worth. You must redefine failure as simply data. It is feedback. It is a lesson. The warrior who steps onto the battlefield and is immediately struck down has not failed if he learns to wear armor the next day. The only true failure is the failure to act, the failure to learn. When you adopt this mindset, you strip General Doubt of his most powerful weapon. The threat of failure no longer paralyzes you because you no longer see it as an end. You see it as part of the process. You welcome it as a teacher. When General Doubt whispers, "But you might fail," you can finally respond with a calm, quiet confidence, "Good. Then I will learn." The second commander in the enemy's army is General Fear. If General Doubt attacks your past, General Fear attacks your future. He is the master of illusion, a projectionist who creates vivid, terrifying holograms of what might go wrong. He doesn't deal in facts. He deals in catastrophic fantasies. If you are about to give a presentation, he doesn't just suggest you might be nervous. He projects an image of you on stage, forgetting all your words with the entire audience laughing at you. If you are about to start a business, he shows you a future where you are bankrupt and homeless, your family disappointed in you. General Fear's primary function is to protect the ego. Your ego, that fragile sense of self, hates humiliation. It hates being seen as weak, incompetent, or foolish. General Fear is the ego's Praetorian Guard. He will do anything to prevent you from entering a situation where the ego might be harmed. He convinces you that the potential for emotional pain is a threat equivalent to physical death. And so he keeps you small. He keeps you quiet. He keeps you hidden. There is a strange paradox to General Fear's strategy. He not only projects the fear of failure but also the fear of success. This is a more subtle but equally potent attack. What if you succeed? What if the business takes off? The new responsibility, the new expectations, the new visibility, it's all a threat to the comfortable, predictable self. Success means change. It means growth. It means the death of the old you. And general fear, whose job is to preserve the status quo, cannot allow that. He will whisper, "Are you sure you can handle that kind of pressure? What if you get what you want and then you lose it? It's better not to have it at all." The counteroffensive against general fear is courage. But courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in the presence of fear. It is feeling the terror and taking the step anyway. The Stoics had a powerful practice for this: premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is not about wallowing in anxiety. It is a strategic visualization. You sit down and you actively, calmly, and rationally imagine the worst-case scenario that general fear is projecting. You don't just glance at it, you walk through it. So you give the presentation and you completely freeze. The audience laughs. You feel a hot flush of shame. Okay, what happens next? Do you die? No, you walk off the stage, you go home. You feel embarrassed for a day or a week. And then you wake up the next day. The sun rises. You are still alive. You have learned a valuable lesson about preparation. When you dissect the fear, when you stare it in the face and follow it to its logical conclusion, you almost always find that it is survivable. You rob it of its monstrous, undefined power. It becomes a manageable problem, not an existential threat. You do this with all your fears. What if you start the business and it fails? You lose your investment, you have to get a job. It's a setback, it's painful, but it's not the end. You are tougher than you think. Your capacity to endure and adapt is far greater than general fear wants you to believe. By practicing this premeditation, you are vaccinating your mind against the paralyzing power of fear. You are telling the general, "I have seen your worst-case scenario. I have walked through it in my mind. And I am still standing. I am not afraid of ghosts." The third and perhaps most insidious of the generals is general apathy. He is not a creature of drama like doubt or fear. He is a slow, creeping fog. His weapon is the phrase, "tomorrow," or "later," or "I don't feel like it right now." General apathy doesn't need to defeat you in a single, decisive battle. He wins by attrition. He drains your will to fight, one day at a time. He is the entropy of the soul. He is the reason you can be intellectually convinced that you need to change. You can be emotionally fired up and still find yourself on the couch, scrolling through your phone. General apathy attacks your why. He disconnects your daily actions from your ultimate purpose. He makes the grand vision of the person you want to become feel distant and abstract, while the immediate comfort of doing nothing feels real and present. He whispers, "What's the rush? One day won't make a difference. You're tired. You deserve a break." He is the master of rationalization, providing you with an endless supply of plausible excuses for inaction. The great danger of general apathy is that his victories are silent and invisible. You don't feel the sting of defeat. There's no single moment of failure. It's just a slow, quiet erosion of your life. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and one day you wake up and realize that a year has passed, and you are in the exact same place, holding the exact same unfulfilled ambitions. That is the work of general apathy. He has won without ever firing a shot. To defeat this general, you need a weapon he cannot comprehend, a burning, non-negotiable purpose. Your why must be so clear, so vivid, so emotionally resonant that it can burn through his fog. It cannot be a vague desire like "I want to be successful" or "I want to be in shape." It must be a precise, visceral image. What does that success look like? What does it feel like? Why do you want it? Is it for the freedom to provide for your family? Is it for the self-respect that comes from building something with your own hands? Is it for the peace of mind that comes from mastering your body and mind? You must write this purpose down. You must look at it every morning. You must feel it in your bones. This purpose becomes your North Star. When the fog of apathy rolls in, when the voice whispers, "Not today," you look to your North Star. It reorients you. It reminds you that this small, seemingly insignificant action right now, the workout, the hour of deep work, the difficult conversation, is not an isolated event. It is a single step on the sacred path toward your purpose. It connects the mundane to the meaningful. The second part of the strategy is to build systems that do not rely on your feelings. General apathy thrives in the space where you have to make a decision based on how you feel. The warrior system removes the decision. You do not ask yourself, "Do I feel like working out today?" The system says, "It is 6 a.m. This is when we work out." You do not debate it. You do not consult your emotions. You execute the system. Your routine, your schedule, your pre-planned actions, these are your fortifications against the fog. They are the structures that allow you to keep marching even when you cannot see the path ahead. By identifying these three generals, doubt, fear, and apathy, and by understanding their strategies, you have completed the reconnaissance phase of this war. You see how they work in concert. Doubt paralyses you with the past, fear paralyses you with the future, and apathy seduces you in the present. They are a formidable command structure, but they are not invincible. You now have the counter strategies. You counter doubt with action and a new definition of failure. You counter fear with courage and rational premeditation. And you counter apathy with a burning purpose and ironclad systems. The enemy's leadership is exposed. Now, the real training begins. Before we forge the warrior who can execute these strategies, let's take a moment to survey the field. We've identified the great invisible enemy, the programmed self, a collection of habits and beliefs that keeps you trapped. We've exposed its primary stronghold, the deceptive fortress of comfort, and we've unmasked its three commanding generals: doubt, fear, and apathy. This is more than most people will ever understand about their own internal struggles. They will spend their entire lives fighting shadows, wondering why they can't move forward. You now have the map. You have the enemy intelligence. This is a profound advantage, but intelligence is useless without a soldier capable of acting on it. The next, most critical phase of this war is about forging you into that soldier. We are about to go deeper, into the ancient forge of philosophy and discipline where unbreakable wills are made. We are going to build the inner warrior who doesn't just fight, but wins. So I want you to ask yourself a question, right now, with brutal honesty. When was the last time you truly felt in command of your own mind? Not just for a fleeting moment of motivation, but a sustained period of clarity and control. When was the last time you made a decision, a hard decision, and saw it through to the end without being derailed by your own internal resistance? Reflect on that. The gap between that memory and this present moment is the territory we are about to reclaim. The philosophy that will serve as our training manual is Stoicism, but I want you to discard any preconceived notions you have about it. Forget the image of a passive, emotionless statue. That is a gross misinterpretation. True Stoicism is not about resignation. It is a warrior's code for thriving in a world of chaos. It is the ultimate operating system for the human mind under pressure. It was practiced by emperors like Marcus Aurelius, by slaves who became great teachers like Epictetus, by political advisors like Seneca who navigated the treacherous courts of Rome. These were not men who hid from the world. They were men who were deep in the arena, and this philosophy was their sword and their shield. Stoicism is built upon a simple but earth-shatteringly powerful premise. There are things we can control and things we cannot. The weather, the economy, what other people think of us, the past, the future, these are outside of our control. To waste a single ounce of our energy trying to command them is the definition of insanity. It is the source of all our anxiety, frustration, and despair. But our thoughts, our judgments, our responses, our actions, our will, these are entirely within our control. This is our kingdom, and a true warrior focuses only on mastering his own kingdom. This philosophy can be distilled into three core disciplines: 3 pillars of training for the inner warrior. These are the discipline of perception, the discipline of action, and the discipline of will. Mastering these 3 is the path to conquering the self. Let's begin with the discipline of perception. This is the foundation. It's not about what happens to you, it's about the story you tell yourself about what happens to you. The enemy, the programmed self, is a master storyteller. It takes a neutral event like a critical comment from your boss and it weaves a catastrophic narrative around it. He thinks I'm incompetent, I'm going to get fired, I'm a failure. This story creates the feelings of fear and anxiety. The event itself did not create those feelings. The perception of the event did. The Stoic warrior learns to be a ruthless editor of these stories. He learns to separate the objective event from the subjective judgment he attaches to it. The practice is to see things as they are, stripped bare of emotion and narrative. Your boss gave you critical feedback. That is the event. It is data. The story of I'm a failure is a judgment. It is an addition. The warrior's first job is to halt that storytelling process. He asks himself, what actually happened here factually? This discipline is not about positive thinking. It is not about lying to yourself and pretending a bad situation is good. It is about objective thinking. It is about seeing reality with unflinching clarity. A business venture fails. The untrained mind calls it a disaster. The Stoic mind sees it as an expensive but valuable lesson in market dynamics. You get laid off from a job. The untrained mind sees it as a rejection of your worth. The Stoic mind sees it as an unexpected opportunity to reevaluate your career path and build something of your own. This is the famous concept that the obstacle is the way. The very thing that seems to be blocking your path is, in fact, the path itself. It is a challenge designed to forge a new skill, a new strength, a new insight within you. Imagine a man who spent years building a company, pouring his life and savings into it, only to watch it crumble due to a market shift he couldn't control. The world would call him a failure. General doubt and general fear would have a field day in his mind, replaying the loss, projecting a future of poverty. He would be tempted to retreat into the fortress of comfort, numbing the pain with distraction and apathy. But if this man is a practitioner of the discipline of perception, his response is different. He allows himself to feel the sting of the loss. He is human, after all, but he does not attach a story of personal ruin to it. He looks at the rubble of his company and instead of seeing an endpoint, he sees raw materials. He sees the lessons learned in leadership, in finance, in marketing. He sees the resilience he built working 18-hour days. He sees the network he created. The event, the company failing, was outside of his ultimate control. But his perception of it and what he does next is entirely within his control. He reframes the narrative. This was not his downfall. This was his graduation. This was the universe testing him, preparing him for a much larger game. He sees the obstacle not as a barrier, but as a crucible. It burned away the non-essential and left him with pure, hardened experience. This is not a Pollyanna fantasy. This is a strategic mental move that turns a potential source of lifelong trauma into a source of immense power. You must practice this every day with small things. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The untrained perception is, that jerk, he disrespected me. This leads to anger, raised blood pressure, a ruined mood. The trained perception is, a car moved in front of mine. That is all. You refuse to add the story of disrespect. You refuse to give a stranger control over your inner state. You are practicing perception control. You are guarding the gates of your mind. By mastering this discipline, you neutralize the enemy's ability to use external events against you. You become the sole author of the meaning of your life. The world can throw its chaos at you, but it cannot touch the inner citadel of your mind because you control the gate of perception. The second pillar of the warrior's training is the discipline of action. Perception is not enough. Insight without action is just intellectual entertainment. The world does not reward you for what you know, it rewards you for what you do. This is where you take the fight directly to the enemy on the physical plane. This discipline is about doing the right thing at the right time, regardless of how you feel. It is the antidote to general apathy. The core principle here is to focus relentlessly on the process, not the outcome. The outcome, whether you win the game, get the promotion, or make the sale, is never fully in your control. There are too many external variables, but the effort you put in, the quality of your work, the consistency of your habits, that is your domain. The warrior does not worry about victory. He worries about fighting well. He knows that if he fights well, day in and day out, victory will take care of itself. And even if it doesn't, he can rest with the profound self-respect of knowing he gave his all. This means building a life of non-negotiable routines. Your morning routine is not a suggestion. It is a sacred ritual. It is the first hour of the day where you prove to yourself who is in command. Before the world can throw its distractions at you, before the enemy's generals can begin their whispers, you have already won the first battle. You have hydrated, you have moved your body, you have sat in stillness, you have planned your day. You have seized control of the narrative from the very beginning. This discipline requires you to fall in love with the work itself, not just the fantasy of the results. You must learn to find satisfaction in the simple, often tedious, act of chipping away at a large goal. The writer must fall in love with the act of sitting in the chair and typing one word after another. The athlete must fall in love with the burn of the final rep. The entrepreneur must fall in love with the process of making one more sales call. This is where the war is truly won, in the unglamorous, unseen moments of daily execution. There's a powerful Stoic concept called *amor fati*, the love of one's fate. This is not a passive acceptance of whatever happens. It is an active, enthusiastic embrace of your life, exactly as it is right now. It means that whatever confronts you, be it a challenge, a setback, or a tedious task, you don't just tolerate it. You don't just endure it. You embrace it as if you had chosen it yourself. You treat it as the perfect raw material for your growth. Let's say your task for the day is a mountain of boring administrative work. The untrained mind, under the influence of general apathy, will resist. It will procrastinate. It will complain. It will do the work poorly, with a resentful spirit. The warrior practicing the discipline of action and *amor fati takes a different approach. He looks at the pile of work and says, "This is my training ground for today. This is my opportunity to practice focus, diligence, and excellence in the face of monotony. I will not just do this work, I will master it. I will do it with such presence and precision that it becomes a work of art, a meditation." He transforms a burden into an opportunity. He is not dependent on the task being exciting or inspiring. He brings the excellence to the task. This is a superpower. A person who can do this can thrive in any circumstance. They are not a victim of their to-do list. They are the master of it. By applying this discipline, you are building a relentless momentum. You become a force of nature. Your actions are no longer governed by the fleeting whims of emotion. They are governed by your will, by your system, by your commitment to the process. You are no longer waiting for motivation to strike. You are the source of your own motivation, generated through consistent, disciplined action. General apathy starves to death in the face of such a warrior. The third and final pillar, the capstone of your training, is the discipline of will. This is your inner fortress, the final line of defense. If perception is about how you see the world and action is about what you do in the world, then will is about what you desire and what you refuse. It is about mastering your own soul. The discipline of will is your capacity to endure hardship with grace, to resist the pull of destructive desires, and to maintain your inner peace no matter what chaos is swirling around you. This is where you train to be unbreakable. The primary tool for this training, as we touched on before, is voluntary hardship. The enemy, the programmed self, craves comfort and fears pain. The warrior deliberately and strategically exposes himself to both. He takes the cold shower. He practices intermittent fasting, teaching his body that it does not need to be gratified at the first pang of hunger. He might sleep on the floor for a night, reminding himself that he can endure discomfort. These acts are not about self-punishment. They are a form of mental and spiritual weightlifting. Each time you willingly choose a harder path, you are strengthening your will. You are building calluses on your mind. You are proving to yourself on a deep cellular level that you are not a slave to your impulses. This creates an incredible reservoir of strength. When involuntary hardship arrives, and it will, in the form of illness, financial trouble, or loss, you are not meeting it for the first time. You have been training for this. Your will is not a brittle thing that shatters at the first impact. It is a flexible, resilient muscle that has been conditioned through practice. Another crucial aspect of the discipline of will is managing your desires. The enemy loves to dangle shiny objects in front of you, the approval of others, luxury goods, fleeting pleasures. It convinces you that your happiness is dependent on acquiring these things. The Stoic warrior knows this is a lie. He understands that desire, especially for things outside of his control, is a self-imposed form of torture. To want something you do not have is to be in a constant state of lack. The practice here is one of negative visualization. It's the flip side of premeditating evils. You take a moment each day to contemplate the loss of the things you hold dear. Your health, your relationships, your possessions. Again, this is not about morbid fantasizing. It is about cultivating gratitude. By imagining life without these things, you learn to appreciate them deeply, here and now. You are not attached to them in a desperate, fearful way. You enjoy them while they are here, but you know that your inner peace, your core self, is not dependent on them. You could lose everything, and the fortress of your will would remain standing. Think of a man who has achieved great wealth. The untrained mind becomes a slave to that wealth. He lives in constant fear of losing it. His identity is tied to his bank account. His will is weak because it is outsourced to an external thing. But the warrior who has practiced the discipline of will enjoys his wealth, but he is not owned by it. He has practiced voluntary discomfort. He knows he can be happy with very little. He has contemplated its loss. So if a market crash happens and his fortune is wiped out, it is a painful event, but it does not destroy him. His core identity is intact. His will, forged in the fires of discipline, remains his own. He is free. He has achieved true wealth, not the wealth of possessions, but the wealth of a soul that needs nothing outside of itself to be at peace. This is the ultimate goal of the warrior's training. To build an inner citadel so strong, so serene, that the storms of the world cannot breach its walls. By mastering the discipline of perception, you control the story. By mastering the discipline of action, you control the process. And by mastering the discipline of will, you control yourself. You have turned the chaotic battlefield of your mind into an ordered, powerful kingdom. The invisible enemy, the fearful, lazy, doubtful program, has been starved, dismantled, and replaced. It has not just been defeated, it has been rendered obsolete. Let's pause and consolidate our position. We began by identifying the true enemy, not the world but the programmed, limiting version of the self. We mapped its strongholds, the fortress of comfort and its commanders, generals doubt, fear, and apathy. We then laid out the warrior's code, the ancient and powerful philosophy of Stoicism, and broke it down into 3 actionable disciplines. The discipline of perception, to control the meaning you assign to events. The discipline of action, to build relentless momentum through process and system. The discipline of will, to forge an unbreakable inner core through voluntary hardship and the mastery of desire. You now possess a complete strategic framework for this internal war. This is not just motivation. This is a methodology. This is the blueprint for building a new self from the ground up. And as you begin to implement these disciplines, not just for a day or a week, but as a lifelong practice, a radical transformation begins to occur. The person you were starts to feel like a distant memory, a character from a book you once read. The person you are becoming is someone calm, focused, and powerful. Someone who moves through the world with a quiet confidence that is not arrogant, but rooted in the deep certainty of self-mastery. This is the future that is now available to you, not as a dream, but as a destination. And so I ask you to look at your life again right at this very moment. Look at the patterns, the habits, the thoughts that define your days. Who is truly in command? Is it you, the conscious, aspiring warrior? Or is it the ghost of who you used to be, the automated program of the past, running the show on autopilot? If you are honest with yourself, you know the answer. You feel that dissonance every single day. That is the feeling of a king living as a servant in his own kingdom. The throne is empty. And today is the day you begin the march to reclaim it. This is the final charge. This is the moment of decision. The knowledge is not enough. The understanding is not enough. The feeling of inspiration you have right now is not enough. All of it is useless without a declaration of war, followed by immediate, unwavering action. The last stand against the self is not a single event. It is a choice you make this very moment, and a choice you must remake every single morning for the rest of your life. It is the choice to get out of bed when the alarm rings, instead of negotiating with the voice of comfort. It is the choice to face the most difficult task of your day first, instead of succumbing to procrastination. It is the choice to observe your thoughts with detached awareness, instead of being swept away by their drama. It is the choice to be disciplined when no one is watching, because you are not doing it for their applause. You are doing it for your own self-respect. The old you will fight back. The enemy will not surrender peacefully. When you start to implement these disciplines, the generals will launch a massive counteroffensive. General Doubt will scream louder than ever. General Fear will project his most terrifying illusions. General Apathy will deploy a fog of lethargy so thick you can barely see. This is the critical phase. This is where most people fail. They mistake this resistance for a sign that the process isn't working. They see it as proof that they are not cut out for this. But you will know better. You will recognize this resistance for what it is, the death throes of the old self. It is a sign that you are winning. It is fighting for its survival because it knows its reign is coming to an end. When that resistance comes, you do not falter, you do not retreat. You lean into it, you apply the disciplines with even more ferocity. You meet the fear with courage. You meet the doubt with action. You meet the apathy with purpose. You hold the line. This is your Thermopylae. You are the 300 standing against an army of your own limitations. And you will hold the line not just for an hour or a day, but until the enemy breaks. And it will break, because it is a phantom. It is made of smoke. Your will, when forged and focused, is made of steel. Day by day, choice by choice, you will starve the enemy and feed the warrior. You will dismantle the prison of comfort and build a palace of strength. The whispers of doubt will grow faint, replaced by a quiet confidence. The paralysis of fear will recede, replaced by a bias for action. The fog of apathy will burn away, revealing the clear, bright light of your purpose. And then one day, you will look in the mirror and you will not recognize the person staring back at you. Not just physically, though that will change too, but the look in the eyes will be different. The old anxiety will be gone. The old hesitation will be gone. In their place will be a calm intensity, a focused power, a deep and abiding peace. You will have become the architect of your own soul. You will have achieved the only victory that truly matters, victory over the self. This journey is not for the faint of heart. It is the hardest work you will ever do, but it is also the only work that promises true freedom, the freedom from your own mind, the freedom to become the person you were always meant to be. The last stand is now. The battle begins today. The old you must be sacrificed for the new you to be born. What part of your current self are you willing to